Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors. And if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled, HOA Karen built an illegal 8-foot wall in front of my window. I outsmarted her with my revenge. My family and the neighbors have had this tension between us for quite some time now. It revolves around our property lines, walls and fences, and there is a small space between our house and theirs outside between the street. It is my understanding that any space past a gate or fence is considered public property. Maybe I am wrong, who knows? But anyways, my dad built a small wall in this space because our neighbors were complaining that trash from our garbage cans was getting onto their lawn. I really don't see how this was possible unless some raccoons or opossums were digging through the trash cans, which they were known to do in our neighborhood. But regardless, the little wall, it was only about 4 to 4.5 feet, was our solution at maintaining peace. And it actually worked for a couple of years. For 2 years we heard no complaints about the wall or trash or anything of the sorts. We considered the beef to be done and over with because things were going so great. Until one day, about 2 years after my dad built the small wall, the neighbors were starting some sort of construction on their house. Obviously, we don't really care if they are remodeling or starting renovations or add-ons or whatever, but when they are building an illegal 8-foot wall that blocks our kitchen and living room window, well then, we start to care. Luckily for us and unluckily for them, my dad was in the construction business, so he knew all of the local and state laws, requirements and permits needed. You were not allowed to have a fence over 6 foot tall in our local area unless you had a special permit. And by the way, ripe stars, maybe you can hear the dogs in the background. I'm so sorry about that. For some reason they are kind of going crazy today. Anyway, besides this fact, the spot where they put it was right up against the outside of our house where our kitchen and living room window was. Our kitchen and living room were placed side by side, and with the wall being built, it completely blocked our windows. Not just that, but my dad had concerns about how close the wall was being built to our house. With the way it's set, if anything went wrong, then it would come crashing back down on our house. This was not only an annoyance, but also a safety hazard. Although we had not had any real problems with these neighbors over the last 2 years, we still knew what kind of people they were, and my dad knew that they did not have a permit for this wall. We never even saw any surveyors or contractors at their house prior to this to check anything out or give them permits. So one day my dad went over and knocked on their door. The couple's son answered, and after some small talk, my dad asked them if they had a permit. The son didn't know, and by this time the mom comes out and asks what is going on. When my dad asks her if they have a permit for the wall they are building, she says, "No, and we don't need one." Sensing the tension rising again, my dad tells her that yes, they do need one. And if she does not get one within a timely manner, he will have to report her to the HOA. He did not say anything else and went on his way. He waited a couple of weeks before he went back to question her, but this time he came more prepared. He brought a voice recorder with him in order to capture their conversation on tape. Upon approaching the neighbor's house, he once again asks if they have a permit for the wall. The mom immediately starts flipping out, cursing and yelling, saying that no, they did not need one and paying for a permit was a waste of money. Ma'am, is not paying for a wall only to have it torn down a waste of money? Anyways, my dad takes the recording to the HOA engineer and lawyers. See, I'm not the biggest fan of the HOA, but maybe because my dad had a construction and engineering background and had the right connections, they were not so bad to us. So with this information, my dad sets up a time and day for him and the HOA engineer to go back to the neighbor's house and inspect the wall and other construction going on. My dad knocks on the door and, like that last 2 times, asks the mom if she has a permit for the wall. And like the last time, our neighbor starts throwing a fit and tells my dad that no, she does not have a permit for the wall and she does not need one. My dad just smiles and says, "Great, I have brought the HOA engineer with me. You won't mind if he checks everything out then." Passive-aggressive? Yes, but it ended up working out, because the HOA engineer confirmed that not only was the wall over 6 feet tall, but they did not have a permit for it. Of course, the neighbors were pissed, they thought they could get away with it, and just 2 weeks later, there was a crew out at their house removing the fence. According to the neighborhood gossip, the neighbors are looking into getting a permit and getting the fence rebuilt. Seems like such a waste of money, and they could have prevented this by getting a permit in the first place. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I guess this is once again one of the few instances where an HOA is actually helpful. However, I'm curious, if you would have been in this situation, would you have also contacted the HOA like the OP did in the story, or would you have done something different? Let us know in the comments, and while you're at it, I would really appreciate it if you could also post some star emojis in the comments if you want to support my channel. Thank you so much in advance. The next one is titled, Never Spy on Me. This is a story from my childhood. My best friend had some really weird neighbors, and they were constantly walking through the woods on the edge of their 20-acre property to spy on what all their neighbors were doing. The edge of their property that was by my friend's house was a good 3-minute walk from their house, but they would routinely go out if their way to walk over at near darkness hours to make sure nothing had changed on my friend's property during the day. There was a small chicken wire fence that separated the property so the dogs could not wander off, but it provided no visibility blockage at all. One day I was playing in the yard with my friend after dinner, and we heard some snapping branches in the woods. We hid behind a tree in my friend's yard and watched to see what kind of critter was making the noise. We have bobcats, coyotes, bears and deer, just to eventually see both of her neighbors come out of a large bush they had been hiding in. They had to have been there the whole time we were out there, because we would have heard them come out and enter the bush. So they were squatting in there watching us for nearly an hour. We ran in and told my friend's dad about it. He was obviously livid, and the next day all the dads from our school in the grade we were in came out and put a tall fence up along the whole property line. However, instead of building it right up against the existing chicken wire, which was technically on my friend's property, they left a 3-foot gap between the two fences. In this gap, they dumped a bunch of blackberry vines that they had cut back from elsewhere on the property. Now, if you've ever dealt with blackberry bushes, you know they grow fast, tall, and entwine themselves in everything in their path. Not to mention, they are prickly as hell and a pain in the butt to get rid of. So, in a couple of years, these blackberry bushes were as tall as the fence and created a prickly barrier that was constantly trying to take hold in the spying neighbor's yard. The neighbors complained many times and even offered to remove the bushes themselves, but since the bushes were not on their property, they could not do anything about them. My friend's dad expressly forbid any damage to the bushes that were on his property. So for the last 20 years, these neighbors have been having to battle to keep the bushes off of their property every spring and are still paying the price of being creepy a-holes to children. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I gotta say, that is absolutely brilliant revenge on a bunch of creepy douchebag neighbors. I couldn't have done it better any other way myself. Absolutely brilliant. And the next one is titled, Worst Parents Ever. I'm going to start this off by saying that if you have a house and don't have cameras, get cameras. I have some now, but I should have gotten them sooner. I live in a pretty typical manufactured home in Arizona, and my parents also live in one just a few streets over. Despite how close we are, I am VLC because they are just bad people. And I suppose, guys, that means very low contact, so I guess that means that OP is not really on good terms with his parents. Anyway, they treated me okay as a kid, but things changed as soon as I was in my late teens. I was expected to do more and pay my way as soon as I finished high school. I mean, that was fair, I was an adult by then after all, but my parents wanted a lot more in rent than what I'd have to pay to get my own apartment. I'd have had next to nothing left of my monthly paycheck if I had given them what they wanted. So I refused to give them more than a fair amount plus a share in utilities, and I started buying my own food as well. My father openly said that this was not good enough, and my parents actually filed official paperwork to evict me when I refused to cater to their demands. I left home and got an apartment with my best friend. 5 years later, and I bought my own house in a neighborhood not too far from my parents. It is just a manufactured home on a small property, but it was so damn cheap that I couldn't turn it down. And my monthly mortgage is not bad either. I even moved my best friend in to help me cover the bills. We were already used to living in the same space, and the house gave us so much more room. I may even let another friend move in to get some more rent money for the mortgage, because we have got one room that is actually left unused right now, since the house is a 3-bedroom. My parents, though, somehow did not like my independence from them. Did they want me to fail or something? I don't know. But the incident that caused the very low contact was when they demanded I trade houses with them. Yes, you read that correctly. They actually wanted to trade. Their manufactured home is smaller and older than mine and has one less bedroom. And their yard is smaller too. Not that either of us have any grass. It is Arizona after all. When they first saw my place, they looked pissed. After a couple more visits, my father actually said it was not fair that I was doing better than them and I was rubbing my nicer house in their faces. It's just an old manufactured home in one of the hottest states in the US. Seriously, what is to brag about? But I guess having something even slightly better than what my parents had irked them. And as I've already said, they actually demanded we trade houses because of it. My friend who lives with me literally fell onto the couch laughing when they said that. And I could not help but join in. My father said it was not funny and to give him what he wants. When I recovered my composure, I said he and my mother were not entitled to my house or anything I own for that matter. And then told them to get the F out. After that, we barely spoke and then the pandemic hit. Did not really change my life much. I like the peace and quiet and my friend knows to leave me alone most of the time. My father, however, got laid off and he struggled to find another job. He ended up working in the local mart or Walls for half a year before getting a better paying job. I did get a kick out of seeing him there when I was shopping for groceries, but as much as I hate him, I'm not gonna call him a bad employee. He actually did fine, but during that time he and my mother kept calling me and asking for money. And I know what you're all thinking, don't lend them anything. They didn't want loans, they wanted handouts. Why? Because they raised me and I owed them, supposedly. I said if they didn't want the cost of raising a kid, they shouldn't have had one. And that, by the way, guys, I 100% agree with. Especially in Asian countries, I feel like there's this sense of if you have a kid, the kid pretty much owes you a lot because you brought them into this world. In my opinion, if you have a kid and take care of the kid owes you nothing. Since obviously, the kid did not ask to be brought to this world, it was your idea. But anyway, a few weeks ago though, my mother called me begging for money because their dinosaur of a window AC unit finally crapped out. I told them I was not giving them anything and they were too cheap to replace that old AC unit for a long time. So I was not gonna buy them a new one. My mother then complained about how I have 2 in my house and the least I could do is give them 1. I then said that maybe if she and my father were not always pissing away their money on beer and MJ all the time, they would have the money to buy another AC. Then I said I was not giving them one of mine or any money. End of story. Only it was not the end of the story actually. A few days later I came home from work to find my house had been broken into. My front door locks were drilled out and both of my window AC units were gone. Nothing else was stolen, but they went out of their way to make a huge mess for some stupid reason. Probably to make it look like a typical robbery or something. I knew it had to have been my parents and then I called the police. I told the police that I heavily suspected my parents of the theft because they acted entitled to my stuff even though I am a grown man that does not live with them. I went with police to my parents' house and sure enough, they had both my AC units going in their windows. When confronted, my parents, they obviously denied the theft. Then they claimed they had already owned their AC units. However, statements from their neighbors said otherwise, but my parents still denied the theft. I'd bought both AC units used online years ago, which means I had no receipts for them. So I figured my only option was to look for witnesses in my own neighborhood. And as luck would have it, a neighbor across the street has security cameras. And the edge of one of them caught just enough to see my parents showing up in my father's truck. My father could be seen walking with a cordless power drill in hand, and a few minutes later they came back to the truck with my AC units. Then they went back in to ransack the place, I am guessing. With this evidence in hand, police had cause to arrest my parents. At first both of them acted like they had done nothing wrong, but I convinced police to let me do the talking. I said they could either return the AC units to my home and clean up the mess they made, or I would let the police arrest them both right there. They had already stolen from me, lied to police, trespassed and vandalized my house, broke my front door locks, and there was video evidence of what they had done. If I pressed charges, they were both going to jail for sure. My parents looked deflated and then asked for a moment to talk with each other in their bedroom. I heard a lot of shouting from both of them, and I could hear my mother yelling that my father was an idiot and he was trying to blame me in turn. After about 5 minutes of that, they came back out looking even more deflated and said they will return the AC units and stop bothering me for money if I didn't press charges. I said they were gonna clean up the mess in my house and buy new locks for my front door as well. And then I wanted written apologies from both of them on top of it. They begrudgingly agreed and even got a police escort back to my house. My father was forced to put the AC units back in my windows and then left my mother to clean up the huge mess they made while he went out and bought replacement locks for my front door. He was gone about an hour and came back with a new stainless steel lock set to replace the knob and deadbolt. Then he had to help my mother finish cleaning. During this time I let the 2 cops just sit and watch them while drinking soda. They said it was very entertaining. After everything was cleaned up, I gave my parents each a piece of paper and a pencil and then told them to write out apologies to me for what they had done. My father looked especially pissed and said I was treating him like a child. I said he was acting like one and never stopped treating me as a child either. This was just me holding him accountable. And I could have him sent to jail, but I felt like this was better for teaching him a lesson. He then kind of snorted and started writing. My mother wrote out a good apology, but my father's was pretty half-assed and passive-aggressive. However, I did not care. It seemed to kill him a little inside to have to do it, and when he was done, he left without speaking to me. My mother said she was sorry and she would leave me alone and then followed after him. The 2 cops said they thought the whole thing was hilarious and then thanked me for giving them an excuse to take a break while on the job before leaving. Not long after, I shelled out to get some cameras for the exterior of my house. So if someone tries to break in again, I will get it on video. I only have 2 cameras but added a couple more fake ones that look real enough just to scare people off. I have not heard a peep from my parents. However, their next door neighbor told me they went and bought a new AC unit. Guess they had the money for one after all. Makes me wonder how high they were when they thought it was a good idea to steal from me. Maybe having lean pockets for a while will teach them, and then again, they are who they are after all. Edit: I've been questioned on how I got a house when I was only 23 years old. To start off, the place was really cheap. In Arizona, you can find old manufactured homes on tiny properties for a very doable amount. I also kept and still have pretty good credit. The house and land were only $55K, the house was a little bit of a fixer-upper too. However, I was able to put $10K on a down payment and I was able to get approved for a loan for the rest. The house is no price and by now it is at least 30 years old, but it is home. And once I have paid it off, I will feel much more financially secure. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I gotta admit, it's actually, I guess, a really good idea to have cameras in front of your house. Maybe we should have that too, or at least have fake cameras or something directly at your garage or maybe over your front door, simply to scare potential intruders off. Did you ever buy any fake cameras? Personally, I would not even know where to buy something like this, especially because real cameras can be so cheap. I think I just saw someone finished their little midday nap and now needs a little bit of attention, right? Oh, and first sleep and then need attention. Like this now. Get up, do this, and now go scratch, right? Go scratch, no scratch. No, first touch nose, no? Touch nose. First drink water. By the way, guys, if you have cats, do you also have like these fountains? At first I was like surprised when my girlfriend bought this, and I thought, oh, it's like just to look good or something. But now I read that cats, they don't really trust water when it's like just like still water, you know, like when it's just there in a bowl or something, when it's not moving, because their eyesight is not good or something. So when they have a fountain like this, they can like hear it, and it's like easier for them to drink, I guess, I'm not sure. And it just looks cute. Disney, what do you want to say to the YouTube audience today? What is your message for the world? Disney. Also, my new nickname for her is Cute Little Baby Fluff Monster. No, Cute Little Fluffy Cuddle Monster. Little Fluffy Cuddle Monster. That's what Disney is, right? First need to touch nose. Touch nose. Oh, where's the nose? Oh, seems like she does not let me touch her nose today. What a bummer. Well, anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. And Disney and me, see you again tomorrow. Touch nose. Touch nose. Oh, that feels like good sandpaper. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. And ripe stars, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you still cannot get enough of my content, then I would highly suggest to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will soon show up in the left corner of the screen. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could not only subscribe to the channel, but also turn on the bell notifications, which you can do by clicking on the little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. This will help my channel tremendously, and this will make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. Furthermore, if you want to see additional ripe content that I don't post on YouTube, then I would suggest to head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 exclusive videos that you will not see anywhere else. Thank you so much for your amazing daily support, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.